Bum, bum, ba-bum, bum, bum, ba-bum, bum, bum. I was actually humming the theme to myself as I was coming out of the cinema yesterday. Fantastic Four First Steps is not only finally a great Fantastic Four film, it's also Marvel Studios firing on all cylinders again, getting back to their former glory. It's one of Marvel's most well-rounded films in a good number of years, from the story to the characters, the world building, just everything that they've packed into this film just feels like Marvel just at the height of their powers again. This honestly felt like I was back watching the film in phase 2 or phase 3. It doesn't feel bogged down in studio mandates or corporate interference. It was Marvel going, look, let's get back to making an awesome film again. First off, the Fantastic Four themselves. All four of them were great. The family dynamic was tremendous. The themes of family and them working together as a family were just so well woven into the story. It hit all the emotional marks. Take notes, Vin Diesel, and the dynamic between them was absolutely on point. I love Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm bickering and making fun of each other throughout the film like brothers. Reed Richards and Sue Storm, their marriage, their relationship feels lived in. You can just feel the history between them the second you meet them, and the chemistry is just so good. Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, such good performances, as are Joseph Quinn and Eben Moss-Backrack as Johnny Storm in The Thing. This film's number one job, its main goal, is to get you invested in the Fantastic Four as characters, as human beings. And for me at least, it completely succeeded. There was actually a part in the big climax where it's all going down where I actually was kind of on the verge of tearing up. That's how much I cared about these characters. And that's just the mark of a great superhero film where it's all about the characters, it's all about the story, and the spectacle comes second. The spectacle is serviced by the great characters, the great story. You care about them, you care about the world, you care about the story, therefore the spectacle has meaning. It's not just empty noise and, meaningless explosions and destruction. And I really loved how the film highlighted each individual member of the Fantastic Four and what they bring to the team and how they're meaningful parts of the team. Obviously, you've got Reed Richards and his intellect. He thinks of all the plans and he invents all of the cool gadgets and inventions, the Reed tech. His whole deal is trying to balance his intellect with his humanity. He comes up with these ideas which logically make sense but morally are a bit questionable, and him trying to find that balance was really interesting to watch, really compelling to watch. But obviously, Sue Storm, she's the mum of the family and she's really fierce. She stands on her ground as a mother. And, with Johnny Storm as well, he's seen as kind of like the hothead and he wants to go back to space. He comes across a little bit as the more carefree member of the group, but there's something he does in this film, a little bit of a side plot he has going on, where he pulls it off and it's like, oh, you're actually really smart and you're a meaningful part of this team. And what you've just did right there is actually low-key really awesome. So good on you, Johnny Storm. And Ben Grimm, he's, clobbering time. He's the muscle of the Fantastic Four. So when it comes time for that, he's very, very useful. But also him kind of yearning for his more human look again, because he's out in the street and he's immediately seen as the Thing. The kids are asking him to pick up the car and he's looking at the school teacher in a way where he's yearning for connection again, because everywhere he goes he's immediately treated like a spectacle, like a celebrity, and he just wants to kind of get away from that sometimes. I really appreciated how all four of the members of the Fantastic Four really shined as individual characters. I absolutely loved the retro-futuristic 1960s alternate universe this film takes place in. Not only does it help the film feel like a standalone film on its own, that you don't have to watch other films to understand what's going on in it, but just the universe itself, the visuals, the tone, the aesthetics, it was all incredibly pleasing. I love the 60s style technology. The talk shows are going on in the background, the radio broadcast, it's all really 1960s. There was just a vibe and an atmosphere to that was just so just amazing to experience. And it just kind of gave it a vibe and a sensibility of an old school blockbuster almost. And in that, you could say that this film doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel as a superhero film or as a big blockbuster film. And no, it doesn't really. There's nothing extraordinarily original in this film, but that's not the point. What really matters is it well told? Is it well written? Is it well made? Is it well executed? And the answer to all those, for me, is a resounding yes. And also, the alternate universe setting of this film does help differentiate it tonally, visually, and aesthetically to the other MCU films, so it feels fresh within the larger MCU franchise. Now we get to the villains of the piece, Galactus and Silver Surfer, both of which were menacing, memorable, but layered characters. I love how Galactus is this big, cosmic, godlike entity who's devouring planets, but he's not a big bad who's doing it just because. He's doing it because he needs to. He needs to feed on these planets to survive. So he's just doing what he needs to do to live. And he's like bound to this like eternal kind of curse almost to do this. And Silver Surfer, she's, you know, the herald for Galactus. She finds the planet and she has a backstory which I won't spoil because it's not been revealed in the trailers. But from what I've read in the comics history, like I look into comic stuff just for some kind of reference, it is quite similar to the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer. But when you learn about it in this film with Shia LaBeouf, the Silver Surfer, it just adds a layer of complexion that just enriches the characters so much. And there's a depth there that you just always look for in villains. And when the villains have those layers, they're not just evil for the sake of it. I mean, that's what we always look for in villains, isn't it? When it's just the mustache twirly villains who are just, yeah, doing villain stuff, it's always one-dimensional for the most part, unless it's super memorably performed by whoever. But it's the villains with those layers, with those complexities, that are always the most memorable ones. And thus Galactus and Silver Surfer are some of the more memorable villains of the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise in recent memory. And Galactus, oh, his scale, when you actually see him in his full size, kind of awe-inspiring when he's walking through the buildings and through the city. Ralph Ineson as the character, the voice, super commanding, super intimidating, super memorable. By the way, go to the Fantastic Four First Steps soundtrack on Spotify and listen to every track because Michael Giacchino's score is tremendous. But find the track called Galactus Silver Surfer Suite. That music, especially at the beginning, with the kind of choir in the background, is low-key kind of epic. As far as the post-credit scenes go, 1000% stay for the mid-credit scene because you're going to be very excited by what happens in that. The one at the very, very end of the credits, don't bother staying for it. It's a comedy thing, no need. I had a lot of hope for this film, and thankfully, it did not disappoint. Fantastic Four First Steps is one of Marvel's very, very best films since Endgame within this multiverse saga, and there's no other word for it. It's fantastic.
Say that again?
It's fantastic.